As a kid growing up in the 90s, you had a lot of big choices to make. One of the most important ones? Which side you were on. While the question was typically between the brawling giants Pokemon and Digimon, there was a third, and while nowhere near as influential or as praised as its cousins, Monster Rancher did have its moments. Monster Rancher Battle Card GB released in North America on December 23rd, 1999 for the Game Boy Color platform. Wow, 1999 was a magical year for a lot of things. And Y2K. What? It had an almost simultaneous release date? It came out a day earlier in America than it did in Japan? That's weird. Monster Rancher Battle Card was an early adoption for me, and while I can't remember exactly how I acquired it, I still remember it fondly today. It's a pretty simple battle card game with the Monster Rancher spin, but that doesn't quite do it justice. In the beginning, a player takes a short personality test in order to determine which starting deck you get, and which monsters. You can win additional cards by defeating opponents, as well as new monster cards by defeating dungeon bosses. While a code system is also in place, only a select few cards catering to a single monster, along with some general support, can be obtained through this method. While playing through it again, I'm certainly reminded of a few of its odder points, the first being its rather poor translation. I guess they got away with it as it was a pretty simple Game Boy Color title, and probably had a small translation team, with a lot of text space limitations on this tiny console. As a kid, I didn't quite understand the politics of localizing games, and the money and teams it took to do so, and as such, I was left quite perplexed. Phrases like N-Guts and Pass Diff were just plain confusing. In order to learn, I basically just button mashed and tried out all the options. Apparently I wasn't the only one. But if the game was released in America first, was its original language English? And poor English at that? Can't be. Dino, evasion by jump aside. Okay. You are the last. Thanks. Guts is short. Shovel will be mine. Nice. As far as card games go, it's pretty simple. You sacrifice cards by clicking End Guts and it raises your Guts meter. This allows you to use cards. It's basically like a mana pool. Your monsters have differing cards and health, and when they all reach 0, you lose. If you run out of cards, you also lose. You can use defense cards only when your enemy attacks. Pretty standard stuff. The majority of the game is spent exploring numerous dungeons. They're filled with other young card players who just so happen to always know your name. Kinda creepy. Either you're really popular, or they're all super stalkers just chomping at the bit to play cards with you.
It's time to duel!
When you get to the deepest level of the dungeon, you'll fight a boss with some surprisingly tough at times AI, and in return, you'll receive a disc that allows you to get another monster card. But that doesn't speak to the charm and the depth that the game has. Battles can get surprisingly intense, and when you knock out all the enemy's monsters, it's a really rewarding feeling. At times you'll find yourself risking all your guts for really powerful attacks, and then shouting expletives when they use their dodge or defense cards and gain the upper hand. Sometimes it felt like your enemy's entire decks for certain monsters were just straight up defense cards. They were so hard to land a hit on. Breeder helped? They're attacking my monster? That seems unfair. What are they gonna do? Tear up my cards? Where's the flip table card? What? There's actually a difference between physical and magical attacks? There's just one of the many things that I didn't understand about this game as a kid. Aww, look, the NPCs are trying to teach me how the game works. It's not very effective. As a kid, I remember craving the rare monsters that some bosses had. Alternate color fuse variations. A green Suezo, a blue Golem, a brown Tiger. They were cool and definitely played off my desires to collect the rare alternate versions. And why was everything in question marks? Golem attacks. Brow hit. Kick. Stevie takes a dump. One of the interesting features was the New Game Plus concept. When you beat the game, the world essentially reset, and you could start over with a different starting deck and set of monsters. You see, you couldn't get all the cards in a single playthrough, so you had to go through it a few times. When you get to a certain point in the game, you'll be able to unlock all the cards from your previous playthroughs. The dungeons in this game take on a rather randomly generated approach of things. When you leave and come back, it'll be completely different. This is pretty cool, because then the dungeon isn't the same every time you go in, but at the same time, it lends to some pretty boring dungeons. You'll probably find yourself rushing through them just to find the staircase down to the next floor. Oh, and if you walk into an open room with a chest in a dungeon, make sure your body is ready for creep time. Whoa, didn't see you there, bro.
You've made a grave mistake, Yugi. You've activated my trap card.
I should have known!
I'm not sure why they're straight up invisible, but I sure as hell remember as a kid being afraid of these rooms, running through them as fast as the slow player character would allow, grabbing the chest, and GTFOing. Story-wise, kids play cards and travel to each of the dungeons to take on the dungeon masters and get more cards. There's also license matches for the top tier players. What's concerning though is that the adults in this game are not allowed in the dungeons. Now that I think about it, the guardians in the dungeons just seem like straight up pedophiles. Funnier than that, if you use the item Fat Lens and look at life through the eyes of a fat kid, you'll be able to see them coming. I guess they're not interested in the fat kids and don't care to hide from them. Thanks, translation team. And with that said, the dungeon bosses, called the Descendants, conceptually don't seem very child-friendly either. Hey, yeah, you've got something on your... Yep, yeah, you got it.
Boy, it's scary out there.
Ain't much better in here, kid.
Dad? At least they're cool looking, I guess. I absolutely love the music of this game. It's so odd and interesting, and sometimes downright creepy. Even now it still stands up. And for some reason, certain tracks kinda sound like... Maybe it's just me, but the dungeon and boss music is awesome. I wish most games these days had tracks like this. In terms of the graphics, while they aren't overly spectacular and there aren't too many animations that the monsters do in battle, it's acceptable. It's still fun enough to keep my attention and not overly bloated to the point where the battles are too slowed down. Apart from unlocking stuff and beating dungeons, a la Pokemon gyms, there isn't much of an actual story. Still, it's worth the playtime if this type of game, or the old school 8-bit style, interests you. Or even if you enjoyed Monster Rancher and want a bit of a nostalgia trip. Which is why I'm giving this game a hit chance of 70%. Just steer clear of the creeps. All in all though, this game is a classic to me, and one of many in the early days of what I would consider the golden age of portable games. Still reminiscing, I decided to go on a little hunt to find the Monster Rancher toys we'd kept throughout the years. Though I'm sure many lost theirs to the sands of time. And yet, somewhere, buried deep in a closet, in what was, at the time, my younger brother's diaper wipe box, lay the mother lode, keeping the Monster Rancher spirit alive. To stay tuned for more videos like this, as well as podcasts, product reviews, and other great original content, please subscribe to the Lucky Crit channel today to get our videos straight to your homepage. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to leave this video a thumbs up if you like this style of content. Drop me a thumbs down if you thought the Guardians creeped you out too much. Also, let me know in the comments down below what game you would consider as one of your favorite oldie but goodie Game Boy titles. And I'll see you guys next time. First off, we've got the art book here, and inside, I won't spoil the whole thing, but it's quite nice. I really like the art style. I have the book from Awakening, which this is quite a bit nicer than. We've got the game itself.
Pokemon 20th anniversary is this year, 1996 is when they released, so exciting news that the 3DS, they're coming out with the new 3DS with, was it red and blue already installed. I don't know about you guys, I own the original cart, so it does not